Alexandra Ingersoll, One American News. How is the Iranians' decimated command and control affecting the ceasefire at this juncture? Ergo, how are we enforcing a ceasefire with an enemy who has virtually no command and control? And then one other question about the Houthis being, have the Houthis been an issue in the Straits of Hormuz and the Bab al-Mandab Strait at the Red Sea? Are we tracking that militarily?
Appreciate that. On the ceasefire front, it's right. Their command and control capabilities are highly degraded. So their ability to talk, see, sense is at the worst it's ever been. But their motivation to want to stay in the ceasefire is very high because they understand that a violation of that ceasefire means a commencement, once again, of Admiral Cooper's forces, which went very poorly for them. So they have a high incentive to maintain that ceasefire, even though they can't talk and organize as well as they'd like to. And then as far as the Houthis, thus far, they have stayed out of it, which, of course, we think is a good decision by them, and I think is a reflection of the fact that over a year ago in Operation Rough Rider, we had an ongoing and intense campaign that demonstrated American capabilities, which has them hesitating to want to do something on that strait, which I think would be a poor choice.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary, gentlemen. David Zia, Real America's Voice. As commercial shipping ramps up, there was 130 ships a day going through there. As that happens, ships have to anchor up, right, and wait to pass through the narrow strait. Is there any progress with an international force to phase out U.S. military-led escorts or other? Is anyone stepping up to do that?
It's a great question.
Long term.
They should be. There's a lot of talk, and what we've seen in this conflict from allies, and those is a lot of talk, except for the ones that were mentioned by Admiral Cooper in the region, who've been phenomenal. Other allies have talked a lot and haven't done anything. And as the president has pointed out, this is a waterway that the American commerce doesn't use all that much. We don't rely on the energy coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, but Asia does, and Europe does, and large parts of the rest of the world do. And so their ability to muster a collective defense or a clearing of the straits would be a wonderful thing. And we hear and see the talk about it, but when shots were fired and those countries were needed the most, they weren't there. They weren't in the strait. They weren't alongside us. Their leaders weren't rallying what they have of their navies. If they decide after CENTCOM does the heavy lifting, which again, they should be able to do. We should live in a world where other countries can defend waterways, not just the United States Navy. Should that conclude, which we believe it will, then we would welcome other countries coming in after the fact. But you can't live in a world in perpetuity, and this is a message to the rest of the world and our allies, where you just rely on America to continually do the heavy lifting. Oh, Iran might get a nuclear bomb. Who's going to do something about it? America. And America only. Other allies need to invest in their capabilities so they can project power and do basic tasks like clearing a strait. So we're not counting on it, but it would be wonderful to see it if it ever materialized. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you all for your time. I have a couple questions. I know you said a few weeks ago that Iran's supreme leader was wounded and disfigured. Do you have an update on whether he's even alive at this point? And then another question for you. Iranian embassy accounts are sharing an AI video of Jesus Christ kind of bloodily killing President Donald Trump. Does the Pentagon have a response to this, including the fact that this AI Jesus is casting Trump into hell? And then finally, for Admiral Cooper, could you speak to us about the morale of the American service members that you're seeing in the Middle East? I think Americans are really interested in what their experiences and testimonies are like.
As far as the status of the individual you mentioned, I believe it's the same. Not a lot coming from him right now, understandably so, a lot of fear. Believed to be alive, wounded, and disfigured. Status remains the same. As far as a video like that, of course, that's disgusting and detached from reality. Iran says a lot of things in the propaganda space based on complete lies, and their actions have been lies. Oh, we don't target, we see missiles going into civilian facilities and hotels in the Gulf states. They say we only target military targets as you watch drones and missiles go into. So they are going to misrepresent, lie, spin in a multitude of ways, which we are quite used to. Ultimately, they need to come to the table and make a deal. And I'll hand it over to Admiral Cooper for this.
Yeah, I would just reiterate my previous comment. Morale is very high. And anyone in the military can take about 2 seconds to figure out what morale looks like by meeting around it with the people. And it is crystal clear. These are motivated young men and women. I had the wonderful privilege of writing a letter early on in the operation to the team forward. And I told them this was going to be a mission of extreme consequence. And serving at a time where you are making a difference, consequential, as the Secretary and the Chairman have described over and over again, is incredibly and deeply meaningful. And I think that's the key part of the drive, as well as being great teammates across the board.